Dorsey, the Twitter owner, and the Twitter International as a company for actively sponsoring and supporting the EndSars movement by encouraging funding for this movement. And therefore, we are calling on Jack Dorsey to come and pay Nigerian government $1 billion in compensation for all the damages that he caused this country. And for him to continue to operate in the Nigerian internet space, he has to open a company in Nigeria, employ local labor, pay local tax, and submit all the evils or all the bad acting that is happening at the back end of the Twitter to the responded authorities.
Yeah, in case you want to ask, that is a Nigerian by the name Adamu Garba who wants the court to stop the operations of Twitter in Nigeria. And not just to stop the operations, but also to collect $1 billion. $1 billion from the guy, that's Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey is the CEO of Twitter. So he wants the Nigerian court to collect $1 billion from Jack Dorsey. And then what came to my mind is, this guy must be a Yahoo boy. Even if he's not a Yahoo boy like a politician, he has the mentality of a Yahoo boy. I mean, it's only a Yahoo boy that will see a white man, and then the next thing that comes to his mind is, oh, mom, make we run this guy street. Those kind of levels. Guy, how will you just see Jack Dorsey and say you want 1 billion? 1 billion. For why? Okay, this is the why that we are going to be answering in the video, and also we are going to be answering the question whether it is actually possible for the court to say that Twitter is not going to be operative in Nigeria via what Adamu Garba is trying to do, and secondly, whether or not it's actually possible for Jack Dorsey to pay the $1 billion. I mean, guy, that's quite ridiculous and all that. But before we move into answering this question, my name is Olayeni Dieko Daniels, popularly known as Dieko Spectre, and this is another episode of Dieko Talks Law. If this is your first time of coming to my channel, please make sure that you click the subscribe button as well as the notification bell, so that anytime I release a video which is going to be of interest to you, you'll be one of the first set of people to watch that particular video. Do you understand? First thing first that you need to know about Adamu Garba is that he was once a presidential aspirant in Nigeria. You know, when I heard that information also, the first thing that came to my mind is, thank God. Thank God that he did not win. Because if Adamu Garba had actually won, with the way he's currently going right now, it's very possible that we are not going to have Twitter. And it's also possible that we're not going to have Facebook and WhatsApp. I mean, if you want to send messages to your friends that are either, abroad or at far places, instead of you to use Twitter, you are basically going to use birds. Like, that's what Adamu Garba wants us to do, to be using birds to send information. Because I don't understand why you say you want Nigeria to cut all ties with Twitter. And then another beautiful thing that he did is that he was shouting that he wants Twitter to be stopped. And you know where he made the announcement? On Twitter. That shit is actually very funny. You want them to stop something, and then you know that there is no better way to communicate with Nigerians. Like, if you want it to go very far, then you still went to the same Twitter to tell them to stop it. Like, you can see his tweets. He said whatever he said in the video, and I was like, oh, are you confused? It's just like our parents when they say, don't lie, blah blah blah. The Bible says don't lie, and all that. And then when somebody comes to the door and knock, and then they look at the door, and then they tell you, go and tell the person I'm not around, and you're like, ma. That's the same thing that Adamu Garba is currently doing right now, because he's saying, don't use Twitter, and then he wants to send a message and he's on Twitter, and I'm lost. The first question that I think is actually very important for us to answer is, why exactly would Adamu Garba say that, Twitter should stop operations in Nigeria? So according to him, this is the reason.
By encouraging funding for this movement that have resulted into serious catastrophe for the country. I'm sure most of you are aware of what is happening. Now we have several uprising in the country. Destruction of so many lives and properties is ongoing.
So first things first, I want us to understand something. The protest, that is the EndSars protest, was actually very, very peaceful. It was extremely peaceful, especially the one at Lekki. And then at other part of Lagos State, at least that's where I live, I can say that the EndSars protest was actually very peaceful. Because I myself went to protest at some point, and I went for prayer walk, which was like basically what I did most of the time. But some of the time I went to the protest ground to make sure I lend my voice to those who were supporting the cause. And trust me, it was extremely peaceful. Violence was condemned until I started seeing videos of hoodlums, disguised as EndSars protesters who went out and started shouting EndSars, EndSars while destroying properties. And I was like, no, this is not EndSars. And then to back this up, actually, allegedly, those people were sponsored by, politicians. Allegedly, I heard it. It's all over Twitter and all over this. But these are videos that can actually support that particular contention.
See the security people supporting the talk. See them. See them. See them. See them. See them. See them. See talks, they go listen to talks don't enter motor. Talks don't enter motor with them. See talks don't enter motor with them. See talks. See the security people. See them. They don't go back the talks. They don't go back the talks.
You can see in that video that man is dressed like a government official, although the fact that he's dressed like that does not make him a government official. And you can also see the jeep that is used to drive those thugs. It means that those thugs are actually paid. Do you understand? To do what exactly they are doing. They are not doing it for the right reason, but they are paid to do those things. You will know that those are motivated by other people who wants to turn the whole EndSars protest into something else. Do you understand? But the EndSars movement in itself was peaceful. Also, another thing you need to know about the suit is that there are two classes of people that are being sued. Do you understand? So first of all, you have the EndSars protesters, and then also you have Jack Dorsey and Twitter. Do you understand? He's suing Twitter separately, he's suing Jack Dorsey separately, and also he's suing the EndSars protesters separately. So now, moving into the first lesson that we need to learn from this whole thing. When Adamu Garba is going to court, like every other party going to court, they must always prove that their right has been breached. That is the essence of going to court. So if Mr. A slaps Mr. B is going to court telling the court that he has been slapped by Mr. A, and therefore his right has been breached. Do you understand that? However, if such right that has been breached is such that not only your right was breached, but a large number of people's rights were breached, then you have to show that your right has been breached far and above every other person's right. Do you understand? So according to the writ that was filed by the lawyers of Adamu Garba, they are saying that his right has been breached, and so section 34, section 35, as well as section 41 of the Constitution has been breached when it relates to Adamu Garba, which is right to personal liberty, right to dignity of human person, as well as right to movement. Now, the problem then becomes, how does he prove that he suffered far and above every other person? Do you understand? Do you realize that when the EndSars protesters were doing their thing, the peaceful ones, they blocked the road. So not only Adamu Garba was not able to go to work at some point, even the judges were not able to go to work. Do you understand what I'm saying? So a lot of people were affected. I was affected. A lot of people were actually affected. And then there was a part of the whole suit that got me confused. Because if you listen to him, he's saying that he wants them to pay the government $1 billion in damages. And I'm lost again. Is he coming on behalf of himself, or is coming on behalf of the government? If he's coming on behalf of himself, then he's supposed to be talking about the damages that is supposed to be paid to him personally. If he's coming on behalf of the government, then he does not have a standing in court. Because when the government wants to institute a suit in court, they would not send a private person like Adamu Garba. They will send the AG. And so it is only the AG that can institute a suit on behalf of the government as well as the people. That is to say that if Adamu Garba is coming in the representative capacity of those whose property has been destroyed, or they themselves physically have been wounded, then he's not the right person to come. He has to give that suit to the AG. Do you understand? This comes under the bracket of Locus standi. Does Adamu Garba in himself have the locus to enter the courts and seek redress of $1 billion to the federal government? That is the question here. So I want you to answer this question. Do you think Adamu Garba has the locus to actually stand in court and all that? Let us answer it in the comment section below. I personally do not think so, but I want to hear your opinion about it. And then another lesson that we need to learn is that when you are filing a suit, it is very important to know that you have to serve every member of the suit. And in this case, when you look at what happened here, you would see that the member The last one, that's the 10th respondent, is EndSars protesters. So I am a little bit confused. So are they trying to say that all the EndSars protesters are being sued, or there are some EndSars protesters that are sued while some are exonerated, or what exactly is Adamu Garba trying to do? It could have actually been correct if they had a leader that they can serve notice and say, oh, on behalf of the people that you represent, take a notice. But EndSars protesters made it clear at every point that they do not have a leader, that is exactly part of their strategy, not having a leader, because there's actually nobody that they can trust. So they are the leader of themselves and all that. So when he said that he was suing the EndSars protesters, 10th respondent, I was a little bit confused. Like, this guy, how far now? And the lawyers that signed this thing, like a lot of lawyers, I was looking at it. Okay, moving on. And then lastly, the last lesson we need to learn, the Yahoo boy said that he wants to collect $1 billion from, Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter. And then the question I just keep asking is, why do you want to collect that money? According to him, he said he wants to collect the money because Jack Dorsey sponsored the protest. Okay. First thing we need to look at, was it a peaceful protest, which right is guaranteed by the Constitution? Yes, we all have the right to protest. People went out and protested legitimately. So why exactly is he saying that they should pay him $1 billion for it? How exactly can he prove that those properties that were destroyed by the peaceful protesters? Like, there are a lot of things, especially proving the case, that is going to make everything just sound somehow. And note that everything I'm saying is assuming that the court in itself would have jurisdiction to listen to whatever he's saying. Do you understand? So we are assuming that court has jurisdiction. So after court has the jurisdiction to listen, does he have locus standi? After he has locus standi, look at what exactly he has done. Now also look at the last part of the writ. You would see where he was saying $1 billion, but the logo there is pounds. Even the lawyers are confused. How do you people intend to prove the case when you get to court? Which is going to be very, very hard to prove. I believe personally that this is just a political move. He does not intend to stop Twitter. All he intends to do is just to make a political move, probably for appointment or something that we do not know about. But definitely this is not about stopping Twitter, because this is just a frivolous action. And I'm very sure the court is going to kick it out on like the first day it is brought up, because it doesn't actually make sense. So if there are other things that you've noticed about this thing, or probably there are things that I've said, please make sure that we have a conversation in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching this video. My name is Olayeni Dieko.